in everyone's heart, enjoys transcendental happiness without endeavoring for its livelihood, where in such happiness, for a materialistic man who is impelled by lust and greed, and who therefore wanders in all directions with the desire to accumulate wealth. Okay, let me just read that again. One who is content and satisfied, and who links his activities with the Supreme Personality Godhead, residing in everyone's heart, enjoys transcendental happiness without endeavoring for his livelihood. Okay. Then it says, where is such happiness for a materialistic man who is impelled by lust and greed, and who therefore wanders in all directions with a desire to accumulate wealth? See, now we understand what it says. So when you're satisfied with activities in Krishna consciousness, you feel transcendental happiness, and you don't even have to endeavor for your livelihood. Whereas a person who is materialistic and lusty and greedy, he wanders in all directions with a desire to accumulate wealth. Okay. Nice, that's very interesting and nice translation or verse. Text 17. For a person who has suitable shoes on his feet, there is no danger even when he walks on pebbles and thorns. For him, everything is auspicious. Similarly, for one who is always self-satisfied, there is no distress. Indeed, he feels happiness everywhere. So we have to learn to be self-satisfied. That's secret. But if you're in Krishna consciousness, you are naturally self-satisfied because you're always engaging in devotional service for the Lord. Text 18. Samtusta kinavarajan na varte tapi varina opastya jai hivya par kar panyat viha palayate jana. My dear king, a self-satisfied person can be happy even with only drinking water. However, one who is driven by the senses, especially by the tongue and genitals, must accept the position of a household dog to satisfy his senses. Wow, that's amazing. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. According to the Shastras, a Brahmana or a cultured person in Krishna consciousness will not enter anyone's service to maintain body and soul. Okay. To maintain body and soul together, and especially not for satisfaction of the senses. A true Brahmana is always satisfied. Even if he has nothing to eat, he can drink a little water and be satisfied. This is only a matter of practice. Unfortunately, however, no one is educated in how to be satisfied in self-realization. As explained above, a devotee is always satisfied because he feels the presence of the Super Soul within his heart and thinks of him 24 hours a day. That is real satisfaction. A devotee is never driven by the dictations of the tongue and genitals, and thus he is never victimized by the laws of material nature. Oh boy, that's a wonderful verse. There's so many people victimized by their tongue and genitals. We have to learn to be satisfied with the mercy of the Lord. Text number 19. Because of greed for sake of the senses, the spiritual strength, education, austerity, reputation of a devotee or brahmana who is not self-satisfied dwindle, and his knowledge gradually vanishes. Well, listen, that just means that we have to be learned to be or educated to be self-satisfied. Text 20. The strong bodily desires and needs of a person disturbed by hunger and thirst are certainly satisfied when similarly. If one becomes very angry, that anger is satisfied by chastisement and its reaction. But as for greed, even if a greedy person has conquered all the directions of the world or has enjoyed everything in the world, still he will not be satisfied. That's the danger of being greedy, never satisfied. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita 337, it is stated that lust, anger, and greed are the causes of the conditioned soul's bondage in this material world. Kama esa, krodha esa, raga, guna, samudbhava. When the strong, lusty desires for sense gratification are unfulfilled, one becomes angry. This anger can be satisfied when one chastises his enemy. But when there is an increase in lobha, or greed, which is the greatest enemy caused by Rajaguna, the mode of passion, how can one advance in Krishna consciousness? Yeah, you're never going to be satisfied by greed. If one is very greedy to enhance his Krishna consciousness, this is a great boon. Tatralolam ekalam mulam. This is the best path available. Yeah, so if we're greedy to make advancement in Krishna consciousness, that type of greed is good. But if we're greedy for sense gratification, that is terrible. Okay, text number 21. O King Yudhisthira, many persons with varied experience, many legal advisors, many learned scholars, and many persons eligible to become presidents of learned assemblies fall down into hellish life because of not being satisfied with their positions. Purport. For spiritual advancement, one should be materially satisfied. For if one is not materially satisfied, his greed for material development will result in the frustration of his spiritual advancement. There are two things that nullify all good qualities. One is poverty. Daridya doso guna rasi nasi. If one is poverty stricken, all his good qualities become null and void. Similarly, if one becomes too greedy, his good qualifications are lost. Therefore, the adjustment is that one should not be poverty stricken, but one must try to be fully satisfied with the bare necessities of life and not be greedy. For a devotee to be satisfied with the bare necessities is therefore the best advice for spiritual advancement. Well, Learned authorities in devotional life consequently advise that one not endeavor to increase the number of temples and matas. Such activities can be undertaken only by devotees. Let me read that again. For a devotee to be satisfied with the bare necessities is therefore the best advice for spiritual advancement. Learned authorities in devotional life consequently advise that one not endeavor to increase the number of temples and matas. Such activities can be undertaken only by devotees experienced in propagating the Krishna consciousness movement. All the acharyas in South India, especially Sri Ramanujacharya, constructed many big temples, and in North India, all the Goswamis of Vrindavan constructed large temples. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur also constructed large temples, known as Gaudiya Matas. Therefore, temple construction is not bad, provided proper care is taken for the propagation of Krishna consciousness. Even if such endeavors are considered greedy, the greed is to satisfy Krishna, and therefore these are spiritual activities. Okay. Text 22. By making plans with determination, one should give up lusty desires for sense gratification. Similarly, by giving up envy, one should conquer anger. By discussing the disadvantages of accumulating wealth, one should give up greed. And by discussing the truth, one should give up fear. And by discussing the truth, one should give up fear. That's very good. Purport by Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakura has suggested how one can conquer lusty desires for sense gratification. Okay, now this is very good information. Let's see what it says. One cannot give up thinking of women, for thinking in this way is natural. Even while walking on the street, one will see so many women. However, if one is determined not to live with a woman, even while seeing a woman, he will not become lusty. If one is determined not to have sex, he can automatically conquer lusty desires. The example given in this regard is that even if one is hungry, if on a particular day he is determined to observe fasting, he can naturally conquer the disturbances of hunger and thirst. If one is determined not to be envious of anyone, he can naturally conquer anger. Similarly, one can give up the desire to accumulate wealth simply by considering how difficult it is to protect the money in one's possession. If one keeps a large amount of cash with him, he is always anxious about keeping it properly. Thus, if one discusses the disadvantages of accumulating wealth, he can naturally give up business without difficulty. Very, very interesting. Thus, if one discusses the disadvantages of accumulating wealth, yeah, there are disadvantages. Some people say there's no disadvantage. No, there are. Of accumulating wealth, he can naturally give up business without difficulty. Text 23. By discussing spiritual knowledge, one can conquer lamentation and illusion. By serving a great devotee, one can become prideless. By keeping silent, one can avoid obstacles on the path of mystic yoga. And simply by stopping sense gratification, one can conquer envy. Wow, good, very nice verse. Let me read it again. By discussing spiritual knowledge, one can conquer lamentation and illusion. By serving a great devotee, one can become prideless. By keeping silent, one can avoid obstacles on the path of mystic yoga. And simply by stopping sense gratification, one can conquer envy. Wow. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. If one's son has died, one may certainly be affected by lamentation and illusion and cry for the dead son. But one may overcome lamentation and illusion by considering the verses of Bhagavad Gita. Jatasya hi dhruva mityur dhruvam janma mritasya cha. As the soul transmigrates, one who has taken birth must give up the present body, and then he must certainly accept another body. This should be no cause for lamentation. Therefore, Lord Krishna says, Dhiras tatra namuyati, one who is dhira or sober, who is learned in philosophy and established in knowledge, cannot be unhappy over the transmigration of the soul. Well, yeah, but you have to be learned in philosophy, established in knowledge, and be a dhira, or very sober, and also, as it says, be learned in philosophy. Okay, text 24. So, education is very important in Krishna consciousness. And the best education is Krishna consciousness, to be Krishna conscious. Text 24. By good behavior and freedom from envy, one should counteract sufferings due to other living entities. By meditation and trance, one should counteract sufferings due to providence. And by practicing Hatha Yoga, pranayama, and so forth, one should counteract sufferings due to the body and mind. Similarly, by developing the mode of goodness, especially in regard to eating, one should conquer sleep. If you eat too much, you're going to sleep too much. Okay. Let me read that again. By good behavior and freedom from envy, one should counteract sufferings due to other living entities. By meditation and trance, one should counteract sufferings due to providence. Providence means the things that happen to you without your desire, and you just have to accept, not be disturbed by it. And by practicing Hatha Yoga, pranayama, and so forth, one should counteract sufferings due to the body and mind. Similarly, by developing the mode of goodness, especially in regard to eating, one should conquer sleep. Okay. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. By practice, one should avoid eating in such a way that other living entities will be disturbed and suffer. Since I suffer when pinched or killed by others, I should not attempt to pinch or kill any other living entity. People do not know that because of killing innocent animals, they themselves will have to suffer severe reactions from eternal nature. Any country where people indulge in unnecessary killing of animals will have to suffer from wars and pestilence. Pestilence means you have you get sick because of unclean habits. Any country where people indulge in unnecessary killing of animals will have to suffer from wars and pestilence imposed by material nature. Comparing one's own suffering to the suffering of others, therefore, one should be kind to all living entities. One cannot avoid the sufferings inflicted by providence, and therefore, when suffering comes, one should fully absorb oneself in chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. One can avoid sufferings from the body and the mind by practicing mystic hatha yoga. Well, see, that's the point. When there is a lot of trouble in life that one is experiencing, obviously it's very difficult to avoid sufferings inflicted by providence, meaning by your karma. And therefore, when suffering does come, one should fully absorb oneself in chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Then one can avoid sufferings from the body and the mind by engaging in always chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Okay, now we have the method by which we can always remain stable and stalwart in our desire to make spiritual advancement. Always chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Text 25. One must conquer the modes of passion and ignorance by developing the mode of goodness. And then one must become detached from the mode of goodness by promoting oneself to the platform of Suddha Sattva, transcendental goodness. All this can be automatically done if one engages in the service of the spiritual master with faith and devotion. Here it is. Faith and devotion of the spiritual master. In this way, one can conquer the influence of the modes of nature. So, if you don't have a spiritual master and you don't have any faith and devotion, how are you going to make any spiritual advancement? It's not possible. But if you do have faith and devotion in spiritual master and you are engaged in the service of the spiritual master with this faith and devotion, one can conquer the influence of the modes of nature. Purport: just by treating the root cause of an ailment, one can conquer all bodily pains and sufferings. Similarly, if one is devoted and faithful to the spiritual master, he can conquer the influence of sattva guna, raja guna, and tamo guna very easily. In other words, the influence of sattva guna, raja guna, and tamo guna. Yogis and jnanis practice in many ways to conquer the senses. But the bhakta, meaning the devotee, immediately attains the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the mercy of the spiritual master. Yasya prasada, bhagavat prasado. If the spiritual master is favorably inclined one naturally receives the mercy of the Supreme Lord. And by the mercy of the Supreme Lord, one immediately becomes transcendental, conquering all the influences of Sattva Guna, Raja Guna, and Tamasa. Within this material world, this is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Sagunam samatitya brahmabhuyaya kalpate. If one is a pure devotee, acting under the directions of the Guru, one easily gets the mercy of the Supreme Lord and thus becomes immediately situated on the transcendental platform. This is explained in the next verse. And the next verse, text 26, Yasya Sakshad Bhagavati Jnana Deepa Prade Guru Martya Sad Dihi Shrutam Tasya Sarvam Kunjara Sochavat. The spiritual master should be considered to be directly the Supreme Lord because he gives transcendental knowledge for enlightenment. Consequently, for one who maintains the material conception that the spiritual master is an ordinary human being, everything is frustrated. His enlightenment and his Vedic studies and knowledge are like the bathing of an elephant, which bathes itself in the water and when it comes out, throws dust on its body. That's what elephants do. So, therefore, we must be, one second, let's see what it says here, that for enlightenment, it says the Supreme Lord, because he gives transcendental knowledge for enlightenment. Consequently, for one who maintains the material conception that the spiritual master is an ordinary human being, everything is frustrated. His enlightenment and his Vedic studies and knowledge are like the bathing of an elephant that throws water on itself after bathing in the water in the stream, and then comes out and throws dust on itself. So it's completely useless. Purport. It is recommended that one honor the spiritual master as being on an equal status with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sakshat Darit Mena Samasta Shastrai. This is enjoined in every scripture. Acharyam Mam Vijanata. One should consider the Acharya to be as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In spite of all these instructions, if one considers the spiritual master an ordinary human being, one is doomed. His study of the Vedas and his austerities and penances for enlightenment are all useless, like the bathing of an elephant. An elephant bathes in a lake quite thoroughly, but as soon as it comes on the shore, it takes some dust from the ground and strews it over its body. Thus, there is no meaning to the elephant's bath. One may argue by saying that since the spiritual master's relatives and the men of his neighborhood consider him an ordinary human being, what is the fault on the part of the disciple who considers the spiritual master an ordinary human being? Oh, but that's a nonsense statement. This will be answered in the next verse. But the injunction is that the spiritual master should never be considered an ordinary man. One should strictly adhere to the instructions of the spiritual master. For if he is pleased, certainly the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased. Yasya prasada, bhagavat prasado, yasya prasadan, nagati kutopi. Text 27. Yeah, one time, several times I was the chauffeur of Srila Prabhupada whenever he came to
Paris,
when I was in
France.
France. So I would always drive him different places. So, so he got used to seeing me once a year. He would come once a year, and then he would see me, and I would drive him all over the place. And then one time when he came and he saw me, he patted me on my head and he smiled. Yeah, one time when I was driving Prabhupada, he napped. He went to sleep a little bit. He took a short nap, and while he was doing that, I got lost in when I was driving the truck, the car, and uh, and then when he woke up, somehow or other he realized that I did not know where I was going. But then I was praying to Krishna, please, please let me find the right road. And somehow or other I was able to correct where I was going. And so we ended going to the right place. But I had to stop and turn around in order to correct my direction. Okay, text 27. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, is the master of all other living entities and of the material nature. His lotus feet are sought and worshipped by great saintly persons like Vyasa. Nonetheless, there are fools who consider Lord Krishna an ordinary human being. Let me read that again. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, is the master of all other living entities and of the material nature. His lotus feet are sought and worshipped by great saintly persons like Vyasa. Nonetheless, there are fools who consider Lord Krishna an ordinary human being. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The example of Lord Krishna's being the Supreme Personality of Godhead is appropriate in regard to understanding the spiritual master. So, if you understand that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then you'll be able to understand the spiritual master. The spiritual master is called Sevaka Bhagavan, the servitor personality of Godhead, and Krishna is called Seva Bhagavan, the supreme personality of Godhead who is to be worshipped. The spiritual master is the worshiper of God, whereas the supreme personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the worshipable God. Let me read that. Krishna is called Seva Bhagavan, the supreme personality of God who is to be worshipped. The spiritual master is the worshiper of God, whereas the supreme personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the worshipable God. Oh, okay. So one is the spiritual master is the worshiper God, whereas the supreme personality of God, Krishna, is the worshipable God. So there's the worshiper God and the worshipable God. So the worshipable God the is the God that one worships, and the worshiper God is the servant of the God who is worshipable. Okay. This is the difference between the spiritual master and the supreme personality of God. Another point, Bhagavad Gita, which constitutes the instructions of the supreme personality of Godhead, is presented by the spiritual master as it is without deviation. Therefore, the absolute truth is present in the spiritual master. As clearly stated in text 26, Jnana Deepa Prade, the Supreme Personality of Godhead gives real knowledge to the entire world, and the spiritual master, as the representative of the Supreme Godhead, carries the message throughout the world. Therefore, on the absolute platform, there is no difference between the spiritual master and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If someone considers the Supreme Personality, Krishna, or Lord Ramachandra, to be an ordinary human being, this does not mean that the Lord becomes an ordinary human being. Similarly, if the family members of the spiritual master, who is the bona fide representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, consider the spiritual master an ordinary human being, this does not mean that he becomes an ordinary human being. The spiritual master is as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore one who is very serious about spiritual advancement must regard the spiritual master in this way. Even a slight deviation from this understanding can create disaster in the disciples' Vedic studies and austerities. Well, let's look at this a little bit more. It says here that there's on the absolute platform, there is no difference between the spiritual master and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If someone considers the Supreme Personality, Krishna, or Lord Ramachandra, to be an ordinary human being, this does not mean that the Lord becomes an ordinary human being. Yeah, and the person who considers this Supreme Personality of God as being somebody ordinary, that's their problem. But that doesn't make the the spiritual master ordinary. And therefore, it says, if someone considers the Supreme Personality, Krishna, or Lord Ramachandra, to be an ordinary human being, this does not mean that the Lord becomes an ordinary human being. Similarly, if the family member of the spiritual master, who is the bona fide representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, consider the spiritual master as an ordinary human being, this does not mean that he becomes an ordinary human being. Yeah, sometimes one's family members cannot adjust their consciousness to understand that their son has become a genuine devotee. Right? They treat him as if he's just an ordinary person. The spiritual master is as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore one who is very serious about spiritual advancement must regard the spiritual master in this way. Even a slight deviation from this understanding can create disaster in the disciples' Vedic studies and austerities. Yeah, because if you think the person, let's say, you have a relative who is a genuine devotee, but you might think that, oh, I know who he is, and he treats the guru as if he's just an ordinary person. That's a big mistake. And that will really be and a aparad, and someone will have to suffer for that. Text 28.
One question, Maharaj.
Yes.
The word spiritual master is coming, keep coming. So spiritual master, is it representing both Shiksha Guru and Diksha Guru in this
Yes.
text?
Yeah.
Because Maharaj, sometimes I had observed like some disciples, they become like they're giving a lot of respect to the Diksha Guru, but for the Shiksha Guru, they are like not that much. Like I feel like when Diksha Guru is present, they become like very active and disciplined. But when the Shiksha Guru is there, it's like okay, like not that same standard, but something slightly lower. So
Yeah.
that respect level,
It's not the correct way.
it has to be same.
Yes.
Whether Shiksha Guru is there or Diksha.
Yeah. And that's because they're not being trained properly or educated properly. Then they make that mistake. They think, well, no, only my Diksha Guru is bona fide. Shiksha Guru, is not on the same level as my Guru.
Right.
Okay, ritualistic ceremonies, regulative principles, austerities, and the practice of yoga are all meant to control the senses and mind. But even after one is able to control the senses and mind, if one does not come to the point of meditation upon the Supreme Lord, all such activities are simply labor in frustration. Okay, ritualistic ceremonies, regulative principles, austerities, and the practice of yoga are all meant to control the senses and mind. But even after one is able to control the senses and mind, if he does not come to the point of meditation upon the Supreme Lord, all such activities are simply labor in frustration. In other words, useless. So, when one is following the regulative principles and austerities and yoga and so forth, this is all meant for controlling the senses and the mind. But even after one is able to control the senses and mind, if he does not come to the point of meditation upon the Supreme Lord, all such activities are simply labor in frustration. Yeah, it's a waste of time because they haven't really come to the real position of worshiping the Supreme, the Guru correctly. Purport. One may argue that one may achieve the ultimate goal of life, realization of the supersoul, by practicing the yoga system, and ritualistic performances, according to Vedic principles, even without staunch devotion to the spiritual master. The actual fact, however, is that by practicing yoga, one must come to the platform of meditating upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as stated in the scriptures. Dhyana vastita tadgatina manasa Pashyanti yam yogina. A person in meditation achieves the perfection of yoga practice when he can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By various practices, one may come to the point of controlling the senses, but simply controlling the senses does not bring one to a substantial conclusion. However, by staunch faith in the spiritual master and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one not only controls the senses, but also realizes the Supreme the Supreme Lord. So therefore, you have this two-pronged uh, understanding of the absolute truth. You have the staunch faith in the spiritual master and also in the supreme personality of God. Then you can control the senses and realize who is the supreme Lord. So it's two-pronged, what you would say, two-pronged realization. You realize the spiritual master and you realize the supreme personality of God. And you put your staunch faith in the spiritual master and the supreme personality of Godhead. Okay. And there's this verse, famous verse, Yasya Devi Parabhakti, Yata Devi Tata Guru, Tashyate Katita Hiyartat Prakasam Tema. Only unto those great souls who have implicit, meaning complete, faith in both the Lord and the spiritual master are all the imports of the Vedic knowledge automatically revealed. So if you have faith only in the uh, the Lord, but not in the spiritual master, uh, that is not good at all, and you're wasting your time. Or if you have full, let's say, dedication to the spiritual master, but not to Krishna himself, again, you're just wasting your time. However, only unto those great souls who have implicit, meaning complete faith in both the Lord and the spiritual master are all the imports, in other words, of all the knowledge of the Vedic knowledge are automatically revealed. It is further stated, Tusyeyam sarva bhutatma guru sushrusaya and taranti anjo bavar navam. Simply by rendering service to the spiritual master, one crosses the ocean of nescience and returns home back to Godhead. Thus, he gradually sees the Supreme Lord face to face and enjoys life in association with the Lord. The ultimate goal of yoga is to come in contact with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Unless this point is achieved, one's so-called yoga practice is simply labor without any benefits. Yeah. So not only we see the supreme, not only do we see and serve the spiritual master, but we must also see the supreme Lord in order to uh, attain the goal of yoga. The goal of yoga is to come in contact with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Unless this point is achieved, one's so-called yoga practice is simply labor without any benefit. So there are people that worship a spiritual master, but they're not surrendered to Krishna. Therefore, one will not cross the ocean of nescience and go back to Godhead. You have to worship the spiritual master as well as Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay. Text 29. As professional activities or business profits cannot help one in spiritual advancement, but are a source of material entanglement. The Vedic ritualistic ceremonies cannot help anyone who is not a devotee of the Supreme Personality of God. Yeah, in other words, there might be a devotee, but he's just making a lot of money, but not really surrendered to the spiritual master and Krishna. So, uh, if someone is, let's say, a businessman, that's not going to help him in spiritual advancement. It'll only entangle him more in material life. And also, the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies cannot help anyone who is not a devotee of the Supreme Personality of God. So, in both ways, one does not get any benefits. Okay, so purport. If one becomes very rich through his professional activities, through trade, or through agriculture, this does not mean that he is spiritually advanced. To be spiritually advanced is different from being materially rich. Although the purpose of life is to become spiritually rich, unfortunate men, misguided as they are always engaged in trying to become materially rich. Such material engagements, however, do not help one in the actual fulfillment of the human mission. On the contrary, material engagements lead one to be attracted to many unnecessary necessities, which are accompanied by the risk that one may be born in a degraded condition. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 14:18, Urdhvam gachanti satvasta, madhyetistan tistanti rajasa, jaganya guna riti sta, adho gachanti tamasa. Those situated in the mode of goodness gradually go upward to the higher planets. Those in the mode of passion live on the earthly planets, and those in the mode of ignorance go down to the hellish worlds. Especially in this Kali Yuga, material advancement means degradation and attraction to many unwanted necessities that create a low mentality. Therefore, Chaganya Guna Riti Sta, since people are contaminated by the lower qualities, they will lead their next lives either as animals or in degraded forms of life. Making show of religion without Krishna consciousness may make one popular in the estimation of unintelligent men, but factually, such a materialistic display of spiritual advancement does not help one at all. It will not prevent one from missing the goal of life. It will not prevent one from missing the goal of life. Yeah. So you have someone like Gandhi. He uh, he claimed to worship uh, the he claimed to be what, he was a sadhu, but he didn't really act like a sadhu. That was the problem. He acted like a politician, but he didn't really act like a sadhu. Although he dressed like a sadhu, and he was given the respect of a sadhu, but he was not really a sadhu. He was a very good politician. Therefore, it says here, uh, making a show of religion without Krishna consciousness may make one popular in the estimation of unintelligent men. Yeah, by the way, the sadhus did not have any respect um, for what's his name again? Uh, for Gandhi. They didn't give him any respect at all. Uh, why? Because he was not acting like a, he was dressed like a sadhu, but he was a politician. So, making a show of religion without Krishna consciousness may make one popular in the estimation of unintelligent men, but factually, such a materialistic display of spiritual advancement does not help one at all. It will not prevent one from missing the goal of life. Well, that's what happened to Gandhi. Now, Prabhupada wrote a letter. I mean, we have that letter uh, to Gandhi and said, now you have become very famous. So then let us work together to spread Krishna consciousness in the world. Gandhi never answered that letter Prabhupada wrote. But not so far after that letter that Prabhupada sent to Gandhi, Gandhi was assassinated because he was not able to give up political life and completely dedicate himself to spreading Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada warned him and, in a sense, begged him, look, you come with me, we'll preach Krishna consciousness together. He never answered that letter. And not so far after that, he was assassinated because he looked like a sadhu. He spoke sometimes like a sadhu, but he was not a sadhu. He was a politician. Danger. And what would happen? He was assassinated. The so-called sadhu was assassinated. So much for Gandhi. Although even today Gandhi is worshipped by the Hindus like anything, they don't really understand that he was a failure because he was more of a politician than a sadhu. But the British, they understood who Gandhi was. That he was a uh, more of a politician than a sadhu. And although he dressed like a sadhu, he seemed to act like a sadhu, but he was involved in all kinds of uh, political issues. And because of that, he, of course, was assassinated. Sadhus are not assassinated. Okay, so then, all right, I think we'll stop there. Are there any questions or comments? Yes, true.
So Maharaj, one of the line from that letter,
Yeah.
shall I read?
Yeah, please.
That Prabhupada had written to Mahatma Gandhi. So one of the line in the middle of the letter, it says, Prabhupada is saying, I tell you as a sincere friend that you must immediately retire
Yeah,
from active politics
yes.
if you do not desire to die
See that?
an inglorious death.
An unglorious death.
You have 125 years to live as you have desired to live, but you, if If you die an inglorious death, it is no worth.
And he did have an inglorious death.
How Prabhupada already knew what's going to happen.
Yeah, yeah. Gandhi could not divest himself of being a politician. He dressed like a
Sadhu.
like your sadhu, but he didn't act like a sadhu. He acted like a politician. That's why he was killed. Very dangerous. Very, very dangerous. And Prabhupada warned him.
Yeah.
Prabhupada said, look, you come with me, we'll go and preach together. Krishna consciousness. Gandhi never answered that letter. He wasn't interested because he was more interested in politics than spiritual life. Although he dressed like a sadhu, and he spoke sometimes, some things that might lead you to believe that he's a sadhu, but he wasn't. Okay, I think we'll stop there now. And look what happened to Gandhi. He was assassinated. You know how terrible that is? Oh my God. That means that and he was assassinated by a Hindu. He wasn't assassinated by Muslims or anything like that. That means that he was really not at all uh, respected by genuine sadhus, and therefore someone killed him because he was acting as a politician, but he was not even a good politician because he was uh, basically supporting the Muslims, and therefore a Hindu killed him. He wasn't killed by a Muslim. He was killed by uh, a a Hindu. Why? Because the person that killed him, he was fed up with seeing how he was always supporting the Muslims, and not really doing his real job to be, a you have to be you have to not be sold out to the Muslims. You have to control the Muslims, right? No, he therefore he was assassinated because he was getting worse and worse, just surrendering to the Muslims all the time. Okay, thank you very much, my dear devotees. We will stop.
Maharaj, one quick question.
Yes.
Maharaj, in India now also recently bomb blast happened, and they're all terrorism again started with. They're all doctors and they're highly qualified, but little confused. Why in they are so qualified and they want to do this kind of a thing? What is actually driving them actually for to do all this kind of a thing, Maharaj? Especially they are from Muslims or that's what they say. I don't know. They say that if you do that, they get something. I don't know what they get.
Who are you talking about?
In India, there are bomb blasts happen, Maharaj. In India, everywhere bomb blasts are happening now. In Delhi, I think they are doctors. They are doctors, Maharaj. That's what they say. They are a network of doctors. They are actually want to destruct the things.
I'm not understanding what you're saying.
Uh, Recently in India, Maharaj, there is
Yeah.
a terrorism happened, bomb blast, and
Okay. There's the bomb.
the bomb blast happened. Close to 30 people got impacted. 10 people died, I think. But the initial revealing says that they're all doctors. The network of terrorism from doctors, Maharaj.
There were some doctors who were acting like terrorists.
Yes, they're all from Kashmir and Muslims. That's what they are saying. They are claiming, and it's a network. Then based on the network, they build their network through all the things, and they are going to destruct the things. That's what they're saying, Maharaj. What is this? Where we are? They are taking. I don't know, because they are that one of the doctor also died actually.
Was what?
One of the doctor itself took the bomb and all. He died in the thing, Maharaj.
I'm not understanding what you're saying.
Okay, probably Amit Prabhu, you are there nearby. You can explain a little better.
Yeah, but I'm not following that news yet. But
Okay. Yeah, I think that's the latest happened yesterday, Maharaj. 2 days back, 1.5, 2 days back.
Hare Krishna
I
Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble
yeah.
obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. What Prabhuji is saying, that they are doing the bomb blast. They are spreading terrorism in Delhi right now.
Who is they?
The terrorists, they are
Terrorist.
doctors. They are doctors from Muslim community. They themselves, one of them themselves got killed. And the question is, why are they doing this? What is the motivation behind them doing all this? Like why they will kill themselves as well as they will try to kill others. And specifically, I haven't read the news that much, but specifically I know in the Red Fort area of Delhi, it's a Muslim populated place, but they are creating terror. So the question here is, why do they strap themselves with bomb and go ahead and kill themselves or kill others
Well,
and create
because they're
terror?
demons. They're demons. They have no respect for Krishna. They don't even have respect for Allah.
Yeah, but they itself, they are going and they are putting their bomb themselves and they are exploding, Maharaj. That is strange.
Well, no, it's not strange. That's what a demon does. He is he kills himself in order to kill other people. That's what demons do. They'll strap a bomb on their belly and cover it with some cloths and go somewhere where there are a lot of people, and he detonates the bomb to kill others, and he dies also. I mean, he's a demon. A very
But how
Yeah.
they got educated to such an extent, Maharaj, the brainwash, what we can call, any person who can do that, he should have got, they would have teach something very higher thing, hey, if you do this, you will get that. That's what I don't get in Muslims, what they teach to make such a kind of thing.
No, that proves that the Muslims are very, very good preachers. They can convince a young man to strap a bomb on his on his body and go and they detonate the bomb and kill that man, and they kill other people also. Just see how strong they are preachers. They can convince young men to kill themselves, and with the desire to also kill others. You have to be a good preacher to convince a young man to kill himself.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, this
What they
has been
do,
happening in India for a while. I mean, the suicide bombers. It happened in Kashmir a couple of months ago. Last, so this is not something new. This has been happening for a while. Just wanted to add a comment. Thank you.
well, now you have to see how these Muslims preach. They preach that if you put this bomb in your belly and you go in a place where there are people and you detonate the bomb, and obviously you die and other people die. The Muslim preachers, they guarantee that if you do that, you go back to Godhead, according to them. And for them, Godhead is you go to some place where you get 70 women to have
Is it, Maharaj?
what?
Is it, Maharaj? That's what they preach.
Yeah, they preach that.
Oh my God, Krishna.
And these young kids are convinced that they're going to get 70 women. Actually, they're going to get 70, what you call, anyway, they, they convince these young kids that they're going to get 70 women or something like that in heaven, in Jannat. And they'll enjoy. Uh, and these kids are convinced of it, and they go and kill themselves. But instead of getting 70 women, they get 70 homosexuals. Yes, that's what they'll get. Uh, they go to hell because that's what they do is demoniac. The Muslims are very powerful preachers. Have to admit that. They're able to convince young kids to strap a bomb on their body and go and detonate the bomb and kill others.
So Guru Maharaj, just like Srila Prabhupada is writing every sentence he is backing up with Shastra. And that's why he's telling us that there is Goloka, and that's why he has shown us, right? You serve Krishna and you are in Goloka. So Muslims, I mean, these preachers, they are able to convince mass population who wants to be like proselytizing. I can't pronounce that word now. And then convince them that Allah and people who follow in Allah are the great, and they just convince them to create terror and do all these things in return of going to Jannat
They're promising
without any scriptures. I'm pretty sure this is not written in Quran.
they're promising that they will get, let's say, 70 women if they, kill themselves and kill others. And the unfortunate people that believe that, they're willing to, strap their on their body bomb and detonate it. It's just like this. If I tell you, uh, you have to buy this stock. It's under. It's going to increase tenfold in the next day or the next week or the next month, and I convince you, and then you buy that stock, and then 1 year later or 1 month later, that stock goes down. It doesn't go up. But I made money by convincing you. So you see, these Muslim preachers, they're so-called the gurus, are creating a hoax and promising things that are not true. And because these Muslim kids that are being convinced to strap a bomb on their body and kill people are being cheated. The Muslims who convince them, they, on the other hand, do not strap a bomb on their body and go and detonate it and kill, people. They get these young kids and they uh, indoctrinate them falsely to kill themselves. These are demons. They are really, really big time demons. And they don't have any respect for their own kid. And they don't try and kill themselves. They're trying to find these young kids, 18 years old, 20 years old, to strap a bomb on his body and detonate it in a place where there are a lot of people and kill those people. Therefore, they're demons. People who have some intelligence, people who are educated, they would never do that. Never become a victim. But these Muslim preachers, usually they are preaching to uneducated Muslim kids. When I say kids, they might be 18, 20, 25 years old. And they're able to convince them to kill themselves. And they're promising them that if you do this, you'll get like 70 virgin women to have sex with. It's waiting for you in Jannat. And by indoctrinating them like that, these kids actually think that they're going to get that. Uh, you know, and what is it? What is it they're going to get? Sense gratification with beautiful women. But what they get is they go to hell. It just shows how ignorant people can be. And the people that convince them, they don't strap weapons on their body and blow themselves up. They don't do it. They get these young kids, 20-year-old kids or 16-year-old kids to kill themselves and kill other people. Oh, they're all demons. They're all demons. And they're not going to find any. They're not going to get their women when they die. They're going to go to hell and burn for the rest of their life, for eternity, for committing such crazy, heinous crimes. Okay, so we'll stop right there. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thank you very much. Do not believe that you will go to heaven or Jannat by strapping a bomb on your body and detonating it to kill not only yourself but other people. You're not going to go to heaven. You're going to go to hell. But you see how Muslim teachers, Muslim men, they're good preachers because they can convince young kids to kill themselves. That's because they're demons. They're not really good at all. They're just demons. Okay.